A very happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. My name is Sia Najad, otherwise known as the Counselor of Cash, and this show is brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. This show is going to be amazing. I mean, we are covering it all. We're going to have some college football reactions, some early picks to some bowl games, some soccer with Champions League, NBA, college basketball. I should stop talking because we have too much to cover. Let's bring in some of the heavy hitters from SportsLine. It's none other than Tom Casale, Emory Hunt, and Mike McClure. And with you three on screen, there's no way I'm not getting some college football reaction before we actually get into lines that we might like for playoff season. Emory, I'm going to start with you. You look at the college football playoff bracket. Which team, and maybe we can bring that bracket up as well, which team do you think has the hardest path here?
I would say Texas A&M, guys, because you have to face Miami in the first round, who has a really good defense and an offense that has the ability with Malachi Tony to strike quick in the passing game. And then your next game would be against Ohio State, who is arguably the number one team in the country, especially for the longer part of the season, a reigning national champion. So if you want to get to the semifinals, I think A&M, to me, has two of the more tougher games right out of the gate.
All right, Tom Casale, talk to me about maybe a team with the hardest path or a team with the easiest path or both.
Yeah, I think Ohio State has a tough path. You look at that first game, Texas A&M or Miami, either one of those teams is a tough matchup. I mean, Texas A&M was undefeated in the SEC for the whole year. We kind of remember them losing to Texas, but they're a really good team. Then win that, and it's most likely Georgia, who that's my pick to win it all. So I think Ohio State has two really tough games in front of them.
Mike, talk to me about a hard path or an easy path here.
Yeah, hard path, always interesting to say hardest path when you've got a bye in round one. But I think it's more just about what happened to Ohio State here. I think a lot of us maybe thought they may have fallen to the 3 seed, not the 2. And the path becomes a little more difficult because, yes, Texas A&M, Miami, it'll be a close game there. But the fact is that game is in the state of Texas as the Cotton Bowl. It's going to be closer to a home field advantage for Texas A&M. And then the next game potentially against Georgia, I think that's a tough spot as well. Again, additional travel for Ohio State. I think that they had the toughest. Georgia definitely the easiest here. They caught a break getting a rematch against an Ole Miss team, maybe without a head coaching situation that's firm, getting to play kind of locally in the Sugar Bowl as well. I thought Georgia got the best deal of all.
Let's bring up that graphic one more time because I do want to get into some first round games, not necessarily games we're betting on. We'll get to that later. But in terms of intrigue, of course, we've got Bama and Oklahoma. We got James Madison, my James Madison Dukes going up against Oregon, Tulane, Ole Miss, Miami getting in, and Texas A&M. Mike, I'll start with you here. What's your most intriguing matchup of these four?
I think it's got to be the chalk in terms of what should be intriguing, which is always going to be the 8-9 matchup, the teams that in theory were the closest. It's an extremely close spread. I like Alabama here, though. I think that's going to be a spot to want to potentially back them. But I think it's clearly Alabama in their current form, now getting a break with some time off against arguably the number one defense in Oklahoma. The beauty of round one, though, Sia, just the fact that these are on-campus games makes such a big difference in rating when you talk about having a true home field. So very much excited. Friday night game, Oklahoma, Alabama. That's the one for me.
Yeah, Oklahoma at home there. But perhaps, Mike, a little bit of a teaser from you in terms of who we might be betting on in that game. Tom Casale, your most intriguing matchup of the four.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same game. I mean, I have a strong play in this game that I'll get to later. But you look at this, they already played, right? And Oklahoma won, but Alabama had 3 turnovers. I mean, Oklahoma's offense didn't do that much. And you look at the last 2 games, they scored 17 points. Alabama's offense hasn't looked that great. Which coach, which team can find enough offense in this game? Because it's going to be tough. You know the defenses are going to dominate. You know you're going to have some tough situations. It's going to be interesting to me to see which offense does enough to move on. We'll see. I have doubts about Oklahoma's offense. Let's put it that way.
Emory, are we 3 for 3 in the intrigue of the first round games? Is it Oklahoma, Bama, or are you looking another direction?
I'm going to the second rematch game we have in the first round, Tulane, Ole Miss, because the whole thing was, man, will they let Lane Kiffin coach? Will they let Lane Kiffin coach in the postseason? Will they knock them for not having Lane Kiffin? And on the other side, you have John Summerall, who's also leaving, but he's going to coach in the ball game. So you have a rematch. You don't have Lane Kiffin. You have a new staff in there in terms of like a new head coach in there, interim head coach to call plays and run the offense and make sure the operation stays the same. They blew out Tulane in the first matchup 45-10. So now knowing how they've spent the whole lead up talking about Lane Kiffin's departure and how the conversation, the ignorant conversation around, G5s needs to be destroyed and bad things need to happen to G5 teams. And we have a great rematch. I think that's going to fire Tulane up. I think we're going to get a fantastic game. So I think that one, because of everything that's going on around it, has a lot of intrigue.
Well, Emory, I want to stick with you here from a betting standpoint because, obviously Tulane and James Madison, feel like the ones that maybe don't belong. I mean, certainly there's arguments that they do belong and they are in the playoff. With those two games, with JMU versus Oregon, and of course the Tulane matchup that you just mentioned against Ole Miss, any betting angle whatsoever there that you're leaning into?
Oh, for both games, I'm definitely going over the totals because you have a one-game season. All the noise about G5 football, which is a term that we just created in 2014, none of this makes sense. So I just feel like those teams are going to carry the flag for those under-the-radar ball clubs that also play FBS football, like the teams that everyone loves to talk about, the same 25 teams that in the SEC, ACC, and Big Ten that folks love to talk about. I think we're going to get a lot of scoring, trick plays, all that good stuff. So we see these totals in both of those games go over.
All right, Tom, I have a feeling your answer is going to be short and sweet here. From a betting standpoint, Tulane, James Madison, those matchups, are you interested in betting those games?
I'm not. I agree with Emory. If one of the teams is going to make it interesting, it would be Tulane. They already played Ole Miss. I think that's the one that could be closer. But listen, I'm not saying they don't belong in the playoffs, but this isn't basketball. We're not getting George Mason. We're not getting St. Peter's making a run. It's football. It's just a different sport. I just don't see either team winning or even competing that closely, to be honest.
Mike, from a betting angle, you touching either of these two games?
I'm not, and I agree with Tom. I think I'm glad he brought that up. Just the difference in college football to college basketball, just a totally different game when it comes to having an underdog story. I would have been more interested if we somehow would have gotten like Tulane, Oklahoma, for example, right? Like the path to Oklahoma, the path to Tulane or JMU winning is a game that they can win while scoring 20 to 23 points. That's not happening with either one of these schools here. So I just think the talent, there's too much of a discrepancy. They're going to compete. It's a one-game season, as Emory mentioned. It's just unfortunately not the best draw in this particular field for either team.
Well, how dare you? James Madison is clearly winning it all. The best team in college football. I just wanted to say that out loud. I don't actually believe it. Okay, real quick. I want to get some commentary here because I think this is kind of important, mostly because you all have some really good ideas to revamp bowl season. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of opt-outs. A lot of these bowls just simply don't matter. But there is a way to make bowls matter, Mike McClure, but it's not making them matter at the end of the season. It's making them matter at the very beginning.
Yeah, I've talked about this quite a bit. I know Emory has as well. I think that just moving them to the front of the season, one of my favorite things about college athletics is the start of the season in college basketball, because you do get those neutral site heavyweight matchups. Now, a lot of it, again, a product of in college basketball, you drop 2 or 3 games, no big deal. College football, you drop a game, absolutely massive deal. So we have to figure out a way maybe around that portion of it, but big early season matchups, let the fan bases travel, get excited. The weather is warmer, it's better. It just makes so much sense to move these to early season games.
And Emory, that would still satisfy corporate sponsors, right? I mean, you're checking all the boxes if you do that, correct?
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we used to have this in college football, these kickoff classics that we used to have. One used to be in East Rutherford, New Jersey, but used to have these type of kickoff classics. And it's a great way to get these cross-conference matchups that we argue about later in the season. Well, if they played in the Mountain West, they'd run the table. Well, okay, if you play that ACC Mountain West game early in the year in a bowl game, now you have that data point that you want to use later in the season that may not exist. Instead of scheduling these soft non-conference games because you don't have a spring game against a different opponent, you don't have preseason, let these exhibitions these bowl games be that in the beginning of the season. It'll keep everybody locked in, because if you're going to expand the playoff, you're going to have to cut off a week of the season, and I would prefer you cut off a week on the back end as opposed to the front end.
Very interesting. Tom, final word on this.
Yeah, Emory and Mike have brought this up on a couple shows, and I think it's a great point. I just hate how college football has meaningless games at the end of the season. No other sport does that. And you can say, well, it's not meaningless for a lot of these schools. In the new age of college football, a lot of these kids are opting out. Like a lot of kids from Duke are going to transfer. So you're going to get opt-outs all over the place, unless you're Army, Navy, and Air Force. I don't think kids really care about going to bowl games anymore. So I agree with them. Let's make more interesting games at the beginning of the season and have the games at the end of the season matter.
That makes perfect sense to me. Hopefully that change is on the way. We got to change gears, not from sport to sport, because we're sticking with college football with Emory, Tom, and Mike, but we got to change gears and get to some bets. Bama, Oklahoma, Miami, Texas A&M, Tulane, Ole Miss, JMU, and Oregon. How about some best bets coming up next on the Early Edge? We're back on the Early Edge with Emory Hunt, Tom Casale, and Mike McClure. It's time to talk some college football playoff best bets here on a Wednesday. And Mike, I got to start with you, because I think you were the first one to tease the fact that you liked the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, Alabama playing Oklahoma. This line jockeying, it was, I guess, at a pick 'em. Now Bama getting some money, -1.5 at the moment. 40.5 is the total. Mike, talk to me about this one. You're leaning into Bama.
Yeah, leaning into Bama, and I've been, a fan of maybe not necessarily having a lot of time off. The beauty of the expanded playoff is you don't get a lot of time off, you get a little time off. And I think that time off is big for Alabama to just simply kind of regroup. But it's all about Oklahoma offensively here for me. I don't think they're good enough offensively to consistently go score enough points to win games like this. When I look at Bama, getting some health back before this game will be big. I just think that they have an advantage. I know that Oklahoma's got a great defense. They've got a great home field. It's going to be competitive most of the way, but ultimately, I don't think Oklahoma can consistently convert more than 3rd and 5. And I think Alabama's good enough defensively to put them in that spot. So give me Bama here.
Tom, talk to me about Bama. It sounded like you from the previous segment were on this one as well.
Yeah, I keep drawing the short straw with Mike. Every time we're on a show, he gets to go first. We see the game the exact same way. You look at that first meeting, Oklahoma had 212 yards and averaged 4.2 yards per play. Difference, 3 turnovers. And Oklahoma still only won by 2. For me, it's which teams, like I mentioned earlier, is going to get some offense here. And I just trust Kalen DeBoer with the time off. Mike mentioned them. I thought they were running on fumes at the end of the year. I think they're going to be rejuvenated, healthy. I think DeBoer scripting up some plays, that's going to be the difference. It's going to be a close game, but I like the Alabama offense to do just enough here.
Emory, we making it 3 for 3? I mean, you can make the argument this Alabama offense has really been dipping as of late, but maybe some extra rest and some health coming back. Maybe that's why they win this game. We're not going to see a lot of offense from Oklahoma. I lean into the under here, as low as it is, but is it 3 for 3? Are you on Bama as well?
Even the Alabama dip offensively is better than Oklahoma's offense right now,
Yeah,
right? So
I get it.
I trust Alabama's offense. Tom touched on it. It was the turnovers, and they still only won by 2. So if you just eliminate the turnovers, that's 3 more possessions you have to put points up on the board, which I feel like they will until something changes offensively, magically, until this game kicks off. I have a hard time trusting the Sooners on offense. And just to add another hot take to it, I would have put Notre Dame and Miami in over both Alabama and Oklahoma.
Well, let's talk about Miami, because, I mean, listen, I was stunned that Notre Dame didn't get in, Tom. But Miami now is in, and it certainly, in my opinion, has, I would say, almost a little bit more to prove than some of the other teams. Like, in other words, that they actually belong here. They're getting 3.5 points at Texas A&M. Again, home game for these teams in the first round. 51.5 point total. Tom, what's the play in this one?
Yeah, listen, Miami's a good team. They're good in the trenches, but for me, the problem I see is I think Texas A&M, out of all the teams in the first round, has the biggest home field advantage for sure. And then you look at this is by far the best defense Miami's faced all year. They like to send pressure on third downs. I think that's going to bother Carson Beck a little bit. So I'm going to go under the Miami team total of 23.5. I just think that offense is going to have trouble scoring consistently against A&M.
So we're going with the Miami under, which does correlate, Emory, to Texas A&M winning this thing.
It's about matchups, guys. Let's look at the trenches. They're equal. Offensive line, defensive line, both sides equal. That's a wash. Let's go out to the receivers. Oh, they got Malachi Tony. Oh, cool. We got Casey Concepcion. Equal. Wash. So it comes down to which quarterback do you trust to play above the X's and O's, and a healthy Marcel Reed, which I feel like the context of why they lost to Texas has been completely lost. He was injured in that ball game and tough through it and fought through it, but he wasn't the Marcel Reed that had those guys coming back versus South Carolina, undefeated the rest of the way in the SEC until they got to Texas. So you add that element, it's going to come down to Reed versus Beck, and I will take Reed 17 times out of 10 and 14 times on Saturday when they play this ball game.
As someone who had a live bet on Texas A&M, I placed the bet immediately prior to Marcel Reed injuring his ankle. And frankly, I was really impressed that he came back and was able to play in that game. But I 100% hear you on that ankle injury. Mike, talk to me about Texas A&M. You agree with Emory?
I agree with Emory and Tom. I agree with everyone here in this particular spot. When you talk about college football games being played on campuses, there are three spots that you have to highlight immediately. Kyle Field, in my opinion, is number one. Bryant Denny in Alabama, number two. And then number three for me would be LSU, Tiger Stadium, if they were involved in a playoff like this. This is the toughest environment to walk into. Miami, they did catch a little break with the game being such an early start time, 11 a.m. local. Certainly would have liked to see it at night. Doesn't matter, though, considering the context. Texas A&M has a huge home field advantage, a sizable coaching edge, in my opinion. I just think that they're going to consistently put a lot of pressure on that offensive line and Carson Beck. Texas A&M wins here and wins by a touchdown.
Let's go to Tulane at Ole Miss. 56.5 point total, 17.5 point spread. Tom and Emory, you're on opposite sides of this one. Tom, I'm going to let you lead off.
Yeah, well, I don't know why the Texas A&M game isn't at night. It's on at noon. It doesn't make any sense. But this is my least strongest play out of all of them. This is the game I'm not quite sure about. I'm going to lean under 56.5 here, only because I don't know if Tulane is going to be able to score. I agree with Emory. They're going to let everything go, trick plays and everything. But I just think the Ole Miss defense, it's a bad matchup for Tulane. So I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to go under 56.5 based on Tulane not scoring a lot.
Emory, talk to me about the over.
Ole Miss is better at quarterback significantly with Trinidad Chambliss and what he's done this year, and arguably Heisman Trophy finalist. I feel like he should finish within the top 10 for sure. But Tulane, I was shocked at their defense last week. Where was this defense all season against North Texas, who looked like they'd never played offense before? But I do feel like because you have John Summerall drumming up that football team, you saw he tweeted out wearing two colors, split down the middle. He's wearing two hats. He says Tulane and his new job in Florida. So they're going to have fun. We may see a trick play on the first offensive play. I think the element of Lane Kiffin not being there plays into the first quarter. And once you get into the track meet early, then it's on and popping after that. So I like the over.
Yeah, you mentioned that North Texas game. North Texas getting a touchdown early, and then they just went without a touchdown, I think, for about 2.5 quarters. If you recall, I kind of leaned North Texas in that game. I was very wrong. I also liked Western Michigan, so I got that right. Mike McClure, talk to me about a first half spread for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm going to lay it in the first half, and I would monitor this. We actually have seen a lot of movement in the last 24 hours from 8.5 to 10.5. Still like it all the way up to 11, frankly. To me, this is like a 21-7 kind of game at halftime. I like Ole Miss early in this one, though. In other circumstances, I think I'd be a little more worried about the coaching staff, but when you have a clear talent edge on both sides of the ball, you get a home game, I think that's the perfect opportunity to not have the coaching staff there. It's just go out, have fun. You're very likely to take care of business in this game. I think they're good enough defensively to just consistently put the offense in good field position. I think it's going to matter a lot here. So give me Ole Miss early covering the first half number. Again, I'd play it up to 11.
Mike getting on a line early and the line immediately moving drastically. The least surprising thing you will hear all day. Let's go to JMU. This is a surprise. JMU's in the college football playoff. I'm going to say it again. James Madison University in the college football playoff. Got to say it again because I went there. They're playing Oregon. Emory, let me down easy. What's your play in this one?
I like the over, man. Alonzo Barnett, the tremendous dual threat quarterback, makes it a +1 in the run game. And I like the fact that they are explosive on offense. They have good receivers. Nick DeGennaro was tremendous at Richmond and transferred to James Madison and has become a solid player for them. And defensively, they got athletes, so they match up really well. But Oregon is a juggernaut. They're playing great ball. They have the ability to score from anywhere on the field with any one of their skill players. So I can see Oregon scoring 40 points. I can also see JMU getting 20 to 27 as well.
JMU and Richmond. I also went to University of Richmond, everybody. So there you go. Tom, Oregon over 35.5 points. Ouch. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with Emory with the 40 points there. I agree. James Madison has an athletic defense, but for me, where they're going to struggle as the game goes on is Oregon running the football and leaning on them. So I think in the second half, even if they put up a fight in the first half, they get worn down. And I like the over 35.5 because even if Oregon takes their foot off the gas, I think long runs in the fourth quarter are going to be an issue for James Madison. So they're going to break it open. I'll go over 35.5 with the Ducks.
Mike, you've got a pick against JMU as well. Unfortunately, you have the floor.
Yeah, earmuffs, everyone there. Let's go JMU team total under 13.5. Yes, I know it's a low number. Look, I don't necessarily disagree that they've got some strength defensively. I think that might play into Oregon's favor a little bit, though. I think and rather than Oregon scoring in a play or two, they might have some longer sustained drives with that clock rolling. I'm extremely confident that Oregon is essentially going to run the football as often as they can and not really put anything additional on film ahead of what they've got ahead. So it's a tough spot. It's a lot of travel. It's a very, very hostile environment, particularly at night. I think the JMU will struggle here. I think the one bright side will be that defense, at least slowing the offense temporarily. Give me the under 13.5.
You know what, guys? I'll take that. I thought you guys let me down in a very sensitive and easy way, and I really, really appreciate that.